On this episode of If It Ain't Broke, Don't Fix It, we're making cinnamon rolls the size of our heads. Welcome back to the kitchen, guys, and welcome back to our little sub-series, If It Ain't Broke, Don't Fix It, where I make some classic recipes in a traditional style. This does not follow the portion fix system. We're just making awesome, fun recipes that I wanted to share with you guys. And today we have a classic that I've been perfecting for a while. It's cinnamon rolls. You guys, this is so dialed in, this recipe. It is perfect. I literally can say with confidence, I think they're the best cinnamon rolls in the world. And I think if you make them, you're going to agree with me, and you can do it easily at home because I've really dialed this recipe in so it can all be done by hand. No special equipment. You don't have to be a professional baker. We're just going to make some easy, fun, and super delicious cinnamon rolls. First things first, let's get our butter melting. We've got some unsalted butter here. Always good to bake with unsalted so you can control how much salt you're putting in the final recipe. And we're getting it into a pot with some whole milk. I'm just going to pop this on my stovetop until the butter melts, and then we'll take it right off. We want it to just be warm. Now that our butter is fully melted, we're going to stir in our other liquid ingredients. We've got some Greek yogurt. I guess I'll call that a liquid. It's liquidy. These are going to help, because this is cold, they're going to help to bring the temperature of that butter down now, so it won't be so hot that it kills our yeast. My grandma always used to say, I've got 2 large eggs. My grandma always used to say that you want your liquid that's going to touch your yeast to be about the temperature you would give a baby a bath in, which is about 110 degrees. But I think that's a really good pre-thermometer days of measuring temperature you'd give a baby a bath in. Let me whisk this together. And now that that's all incorporated, we'll move on to our dry ingredients. I have got some AP flour here. I like King Arthur brand, but you can use any brand of AP you want as long as it's not bleached. We're going in with our instant yeast, a little bit of salt, and some sugar. Simple, enriched dough, enriched with butter and yogurt and a little bit of sugar. That's how you make a pastry dough, and that is the base of a great cinnamon roll. Just stirring that to combine, and we are going to do a countertop kneading technique. This dough comes together really easy on a countertop. You can do it in a bowl if you want, but I do all my doughs this way, and it works really great. It incorporates the flour slowly and the liquid slowly at the amount that you want to incorporate at once, so everything hydrates evenly, whereas the sides of a bowl just kind of force everything to dump together, and you get an uneven hydration, and then it's harder to work the dough. So I like to do it on a countertop. I put everything out, use the bottom of my bowl, make a little well. I'll extend that well with my hands till I can see the bottom of the counter. And then my liquid ingredients go right in the middle. Now we use a fork, and we're just going to start to incorporate the flour a little bit at a time into the center. Let it hydrate, get everything mixing together. As that liquid and that flour mix, you're going to start to form a batter. That batter will get thicker and thicker. As it gets thicker, it's less likely to run, so you don't have to worry that you're using the walls of your flour, because it's not going to want to run as much as we go. Batter's starting to get pretty thick now, looking good. I don't have to worry so much about my walls. I can focus on getting everything hydrated. And once it has stopped running completely, like it is right now, I like to just Get some flour on my fork and then clean it off completely, because that's all part of the dough that we measured out. I measured this dough by weight, and I gave you weight measurements and cup measurements below. I know not everyone has a scale, but if you have a scale, I do highly recommend using it. Doughs, they can be finicky. When you're baking, you want to be really precise, and the most precise way to measure is always with weight. So if you don't have a scale, it might be something you want to look into. We switch over to our scraper now. You are going to need one of these to use this technique. And we just start to cut the flour into the batter. By cut it in, I mean just use the edge of the scraper, make a crosshatch pattern, and we are cutting it up, and we're going to form all kind of little hydrated clumps. The smaller the better. That helps everything to mix in easily. And we will just keep going like this until we start to form a cohesive dough. Now that we are getting to be a dough ball, I'm going to stop using my scraper and I'm going to switch to my hands. It's going to be a little sticky at first. You do want to keep your scraper by your side though, because you might have to pop it up off the counter and fold it over. It's going to be a little sticky at first though, and we're just going to start rolling it back on itself, turning it 90 degrees, rolling it back on itself. The dough starts off sticky, ends up much smoother once we get a little knead on it. And this is going to take about 5 minutes to knead, which is a lot less time than most recipes call for when you're doing a hand knead. There's a reason for that. Part of it was that slow hydration we used at first. Secondly, we are going to incorporate a rest into this process. A 15-minute rest period once we've done this 5-minute knead will be all we need to let those proteins develop fully. We don't have to break our backs kneading. And it would take longer than a 5-minute knead even if you were using a machine. And you can use your scraper and just bring it up off the counter and then keep going. I'm only using my fingertips here, not my whole hands. That reduces the amount of contact with the dough, so less likely to stick to my hands. Just the fingertips. You can see it's a very sticky dough, and there's nothing to be afraid of. You can work a sticky dough on a countertop just fine with just your hands and a scraper. Starting to get smoother already. We can see as we knead, those proteins develop. That dough is starting to want to stick to itself rather than the counter and rather than my hands, which is exactly what we're looking for. And we are just about, looking at my clock, we're just about at the 5-minute mark. And as you can see, this dough has come together. It's no longer sticking to the counter. It's barely sticking to my fingertips anymore. It's looking smooth and shiny, which is exactly what we want. Now it's time for our rest. We're just going to ball this up. And you can see our counter, except for that one little scrap of dough, is pretty clean. You don't have to worry about this making a mess in your kitchen. We don't even have to clean our bowl because everything came off there. We only had dry ingredients in there. We're going to cover this up. Don't need to flour it. Cover it with your bowl. 15 minutes, and we will be right back. It has been 15 minutes. Let's give her a look. Very nice. We don't expect to see any rise yet. That's just to let the protein develop. Use our scraper, pop it up, and we'll just give it another quick knead, just for a minute or so. fully line up those proteins, we can see that this dough is much shinier, much smoother, totally holding together, not sticking to the counter, not sticking to my hands. You guys probably didn't believe it when you saw how wet this dough was originally. Look, we've developed those proteins and everything is a nice tight ball. We are looking good, smooth. We're going to tighten up our dough ball, just rolling and tucking to get a nice tight skin on the outside, which helps hold everything together while it rises. Now this is a yeasted dough, which means there's no getting around it. We got to let it rise 2 hours at room temperature, maybe an hour and a half if it's a warm room temperature, just until the dough ball doubles in size. I'm just going to put mine on a board so I can move it around. You don't have to, but you do have to keep it covered. While that dough is rising, we might as well mix up our filling. Very simple butter and cinnamon sugar filling. I've got unsalted butter at room temperature. Gotta be room temperature for this. This is one thing you will need for this recipe. You need a hand beater because we really got to beat up this butter. We are going to be incorporating a lot of air into that, and the reason for it is this. You usually do that with cookies because that helps them to rise. This isn't so much about rising as it is about insulation. Air is a very good insulator. That's why, like a down coat, it's not really the feathers that keep you warm, it's all the air that they trap in there. We're going to trap a lot of air in this butter mixture because when it goes in the middle of the cinnamon rolls, we don't want it to all just melt out in the oven. So trapping that air gives it time to cook into the cinnamon roll instead of melting out the bottom. It acts as an insulator. Let's get to it. Just get that butter a little bit whipped before we add our sugar, our cinnamon, and just a touch of salt brings out all the other flavors. Now that this powder's in there, start on low and then move up to high. If you have any clumps of brown sugar, you can just stop your beater and mash them down. That'll get rid of the clumps. Start it up again. We put a good 3 to 5 minutes worth of whisking into that, and that's for a reason. As you can see, it has lightened in color. That's from all the air we whipped into it. That's how you know you have a good, strong whip. And you got to do that. You got to take a few minutes, put a lot of air in that butter so that it'll be really nice in the filling and it won't be in the bottom of your pan. This is ready to go now. We can leave it at room temperature. You can cover it up, wait for your dough to finish rising, and then we'll fill these bad boys up. Our dough is almost risen. We're about ready to roll. I've got a 9x9 baking dish. I'm just going to get a little bit of butter on it to make sure nothing sticks. It has been 2 hours. Let's check on our dough. Very nice. We are doubled in size. You can see I got a little crack there. I had a small tear in my dough, and as it expands, the tear expands, but that's not a big deal. We're going to turn this upside down and roll it out. That'll go right away. Now I have my filling. I transferred that to a smaller container, and a little bit of flour. We want to flour our board. I do this on a cutting board because we are going to cut this after we roll it. I don't want to have to move it around too much. I'm even going to flour my rolling pin a little bit, just to avoid any sticking. And now turn this out onto our board. And we want to roll it out to about 18 inches long by about 8 inches wide. That'll just give us the perfect size rolls. A little flour on top, never hurt anything. Gentle, you know, we're going to knock some of the air out, but we want to keep as much as we can. I'm going to try and make this rectangular as I can with my rolling pin, and I'll use my hands as well. kind of stopping and just stretching so we get some corners. You can see we got a nice strong dough. It's very elastic. It'll be about 1/2 inch to 1 inch thick when you're done. Get this guy out of my way. Stretch, get yourself some corners. Let's give that a look. About 8.5. Maybe 9, that's okay. So we'll check here, 12. Yeah, we are looking good. So we are about at the size. It doesn't have to be perfect. I can be a bit of a perfectionist. We got our filling. We're just gonna spread it on in a nice even layer, getting it all over the dough. You know, get it close to the edges. It doesn't have to be exact. That's pretty good. All right, we're gonna roll her up. Nice tight spiral. Bring it back so that the seam is down, and then you can just kind of tap it, even everything out. And these are beautiful. Your longest, sharpest knife is always going to help you get a clean cut. I'm going to cut it about in half. Good idea to wipe it in between so it doesn't stick. And we'll cut each of these in half again. Beautiful. Now we've got our buttered dish. I like to put the end sides, roll them so that they're down. That just helps keep everything even. Very nice. And you can kind of round them out with your hands. Just stick them in the corners. This is a very important step. We are going to wrap this with plastic wrap, and we are going to rest it overnight in the fridge. I know everybody wants to just get into the oven and get these out, but the thing is, this is a heavily enriched dough that has a bunch of butter wrapped in it. That butter has to chill till it's solid all the way to the center of the dough, which takes an overnight rest. If you pop it right in the oven, that butter is all going to melt out. You're going to have a big pool on the bottom of your pan. It's not going to be in your rolls, and your rolls are all going to be smushy and flobbity. Yeah, that's right, I said flobbity. You don't want flobbity rolls, so you got to rest it overnight and let that butter harden all the way to the center. While we're here, I might as well show you guys what we call in the industry a hotel wrap. We call it that because we use it on hotel pans, which we don't have here, but hotel pans are notorious for the plastic wrap not sticking to them. So this is a technique you use when you have a pan you want to wrap tight, but you're worried the plastic wrap won't stick. So you start by pulling out a nice long sheet, laying that down on the bottom, put your object on top, wrap it over, pull it tight, cut your sheet, pull it tight again, and now the plastic wrap has itself to stick to, and you don't have to worry about whether or not it's going to stick to the pan. Let's get these in the fridge. We are back. Our overnight rest is done, and our rolls are looking amazing. They get a little bit of extra rise in the fridge, and like I said, that butter has hardened up all the way to the core, so it's not going to run out of the rolls when we bake them. Now we've got some aluminum foil. I sprayed it with some cooking spray because these are going to rise in the oven. I don't want them to stick to the foil, but we are going to tent this. You want to leave a little space for your rolls to rise up. So don't make it a super tight foil wrap. Just cover them, leave a little space, have that nonstick spray on the bottom so when they touch it doesn't stick. We're going into a 350-degree oven for 45 minutes. Then we'll uncover, finish the bake for like 12 to 15 just to let them brown up. Then we're gonna frost and enjoy. While that is baking, let's mix up our cream cheese frosting real quick. Very easy frosting. We've got a cup or 1 block of cream cheese. Now, you see I use this high-sided container whenever I'm going to use this guy for obvious reasons. That prevents splashing. Bowls that are kind of bowl-shaped, stuff can fly out when you're using a hand beater, so I like a high-sided container. I'm going to start this off. Getting it going first helps to avoid the powdered sugar splashing out. Just create some surface area. Real simple. Now we add the powdered sugar. And you can do like half at a time. Ooh, that was more than half. Get that incorporated. Do the other half. This way it's not, getting all powdery all around our faces. Very nice. A little bit of vanilla going in. And then we just whip. And that is all there is to it. Just a minute or so. Get some air whipped in. We'll set this aside. Oh, don't forget a little bit for yourself. Man, that's good. Love cream cheese frosting. We'll set it aside. We'll wait for our rolls to be done, and we will frost those bad boys up. Our rolls are done and they are looking and smelling so good, you guys. Look at these big, beautiful cinnamon rolls. You might be wondering why I made them so huge, 4 huge ones. A lot of people would have taken that amount of dough and they'd have divided it into like 8 medium or 12 small. I like to leave them just honking big because what happens is they crisp up on the outside and they stay soft and gooey on the inside, and you can't get that texture if you make a really small roll. It just dries out. It's either never crispy on the outside or it's dry all the way through. So these big, gigantic cinnamon rolls, they're perfect. I took these to a Christmas party last week and the host just divided them into 4s and put them out on the pastry table and people went nuts for them. So cutting them up after you bake them is the way to go with cinnamon rolls. Now we do have to let them cool a little. They have to set. That butter has to reabsorb into the dough. So about 15 minutes to cool, but we're gonna ice them while they're hot. Beautiful cream cheese frosting. It'll just start to melt in there from the hot rolls, which is why we do this right out of the oven. Some people make their frosting a little bit thin so it drizzles on, which, I don't know, I guess kind of looks nice, but as it melts from the heat, it loses some texture that way. So I like a thick cream cheese frosting, and you'll see as it melts in, it becomes really beautiful. Just get an even layer. Try and get it all onto the sides, everything that's showing. And that is gorgeous. We're gonna let it rest 15 minutes. We'll come back and we'll try a bite. Our wait is over, guys. It is smelling amazing. It is looking amazing. We can see that that cream cheese has kind of melted into the cinnamon rolls. Everything has had a chance to absorb. Let's get into this. Let's give it a cut. This is always the most nerve-wracking moment. You don't want to mess anything up as you're getting them out of the pan. But honestly, these come out pretty easily. First one is always the challenge. Oh yeah. That caramelized crust. Look at the caramelization. Crunchy on the outside. It's going to be so chewy and gooey with all that brown sugar butter on the inside. I cannot wait to get into this. Let's go. I don't know how to deal with this monster. Kind of just want to take a huge bite, but let's check out the layers. Oh, you can see how that just comes right apart. So pretty. That gooey center, oh, that's my favorite part. All right, I'm going to get into this. Always worth it. Woo! That is sweet and delicious. Oh my goodness. You guys, I can't get over it. I want to get some of the crusty outside. Caramelized. It's like candy exterior. Flaky. Flaky on the inside. Cinnamon. Look how flaky that is. Oh my goodness. It is a perfect cinnamon roll. I mean, you can't beat it. It's the best cinnamon roll in the world. All done by hand. Not that difficult, guys. You learned how to make a beautiful enriched pastry dough that you mixed by hand with no special equipment. You learned how to make that filling and the beautiful cream cheese frosting. A few steps, an overnight rest, yes, but it makes the perfect cinnamon roll. So much better than what you're going to eat in an airport while you're waiting for a plane. Take one of these with you. Oh, they won't let you through security. It's too darn big. Merry Christmas, everybody. I hope you guys bring these to a holiday party and everybody is thrilled. And if you want more recipes like this, make sure you like and subscribe and leave me some comments below. Let me know what you think of the recipes. Let me know what other kind of recipes you would like me to do in the future. I love interacting with you guys. Thank you for being here with me in the kitchen on this episode of If It Ain't Broke, Don't Fix It.